Hello history lovers and welcome back to the channel. My name is Hannah and if you're new here you are very welcome. Today we are going to explore all of the Tudor princesses. The people on this list are the female descendants of King Henry VII and Elizabeth of York, the first Tudor monarchs, and are therefore females who have a claim to the English throne and have English royal blood, even if they are not necessarily titled or technically are princesses. One caveat is that I won't be including illegitimate children. The other caveat that I have placed on this video is that everyone on this list was born before the death of the last Tudor monarch, Queen Elizabeth I, on the 24th of March 1603. Otherwise, we could be here all day. Also, I'm going to apologise for doing this video in my hoodie. It's just that it is -3 outside in England, and that is disgusting, okay? We are not built for hot weather. We are not built for cold weather. We are built for medium temperatures. And yes, I do have the heating on, okay? And before anyone complains, being like, oh, -3, that's nothing. You haven't lived here. No. -3 feels like -30, okay? Let's look at the descendants of King Henry VII's eldest daughter, Margaret Tudor, Queen of Scotland. Lady Margaret Douglas was born on the 8th of October 1515 at Harbottle Castle in Northumberland, and she was the daughter of Archibald Douglas, Earl of Angus, and Margaret Tudor, the Dowager Queen of Scotland, who was also the sister of King Henry VIII. Around the time of Margaret's birth, her father encountered challenges in Scotland, while her mother, Queen Margaret, grappled with a power struggle for the regency of Lady Margaret's half-brother, King James V of Scotland. The Dowager Queen sought refuge in England, her native land. Margaret's parents' union was far from blissful, leading to their separation. At the age of 3, Margaret came under the care of her father. In 1522, the Earl of Angus visited France, possibly taking Margaret along with him. From 1521 to 1524, Margaret did not have contact with her mother, and her father's influence was significant during this period. The unhappy marriage of Margaret's parents was ultimately annulled in 1527. King Henry VIII strongly disapproved of his sister's conduct and desired to shield Margaret from her influence. Consequently, Margaret became the legal ward of her uncle. Following a brief residence at Berwick Castle, she became part of the household of her godfather, Cardinal Wolsey. Upon Wolsey's death in 1530, Lady Margaret received an invitation to the court. She took up residence at the Royal Palace of Beaulieu, where she joins the household of her cousin, the future Queen Mary I. Together, they shared their educational pursuits and developed a lasting friendship. Margaret assumes the role of a lady-in-waiting to Anne Boleyn, King Henry VIII's second wife, and drew the attention of Anne's uncle, Lord Thomas Howard, the half-brother of another Thomas Howard, Duke of Norfolk. The two got close, and by the end of 1535, they were secretly engaged.
You know what? You guys should date. And then not tell me about it.
I think she knows.
When King Henry VIII discovered Margaret's engagement in early July 1536, he was not exactly pleased.
Okay, fine, I'm cool, I'm fine.
At this point, Henry had already declared his daughters, Mary and Elizabeth, as illegitimate. This placed Margaret as next in line for the throne. An unauthorised marriage, especially with the son of a powerful nobleman and a relative of the now disgraced Queen, was politically outrageous. Both Lord Thomas and Lady Margaret were confined to the Tower of London. On the 18th of July 1536, Thomas Howard was sentenced to death, but spared execution, remaining in the Tower, even after Margaret terminated their relationship. He died there on the 31st of October 1537.
Wait a tick. That means I'm single again! Oh, behave! Yeah!
Margaret, succumbing to illness, likely due to stress, was granted a measure of leniency by Henry. She was permitted to move to Sion Abbey under the supervision of the abbess and was released from imprisonment on the 29th of October 1537. Margaret faced disfavour once again in 1540 when she engaged in a relationship with Sir Charles Howard, the brother of Henry VIII's fifth wife, Catherine Howard. In 1543, Margaret played a notable role as one of the witnesses to King Henry's final marriage to Catherine Parr at Hampton Court. Subsequently, Margaret became one of Queen Catherine's principal ladies. In her late 20s, Margaret finally wed. She married Matthew Stuart, Earl of Lennox, in 1544. Henry VIII and his sixth wife, Catherine Parr, attended the couple's wedding on the 6th of July 1544 at St James's Palace in London. The union resulted in a total of 8 children, but only 2 survived: Henry Stuart, Lord Darnley, and Charles Stuart, Earl of Lennox. During the reign of her cousin Mary I, Margaret, now recognised as Lady Lennox, resided in rooms at Westminster Palace. In November 1553, Queen Mary informed the ambassador Simon Renard that Lady Lennox was deemed the most suitable successor to the throne. With the ascension of Queen Elizabeth I, Lady Lennox relocated to Yorkshire, establishing her residence at Temple Newsam, which became a hub for Roman Catholic intrigue. Her eldest son, Henry Stuart, Lord Darnley, married his cousin, Mary, Queen of Scots, consolidating their claims to the English throne. Consequently, the enraged Queen Elizabeth I sent Margaret to the Tower as punishment for her involvement in the arrangement. Mary, Queen of Scots, gave birth to a child by Darnley on the 19th of June 1566, named James, who would go on to become the future King James VI of Scotland and first of England. Margaret was released after Lord Darnley's murder in 1567. However, because it's Scottish, it's murder.
Right.
Initially, Margaret denounced her daughter-in-law and niece, Mary, for her involvement in the murder of her son. However, over time, she reconciled with Mary. Her husband took on the role of governing Scotland as the regent for their young grandson, James VI. In 1571, the Earl of Lennox met a tragic end, being assassinated by a shot to the back during a skirmish at Stirling Castle. In 1574, she once again incurred Elizabeth's displeasure by orchestrating the marriage of her younger son, Charles, to Elizabeth Cavendish. Elizabeth Cavendish was the daughter of the wealthy and formidable Elizabeth, Countess of Shrewsbury, also known as Bess of Hardwicke. As a result, Lady Lennox found herself back in the Tower, but she was pardoned after her son's death in 1576. Margaret displayed a keen interest in her grandchildren, James and Arabella, becoming a dedicated and affectionate grandmother. The health of her surviving son, Charles Stuart, became a source of concern for Margaret, as he frequently exhibited signs of illness, including spitting blood and a consumptive flush on his cheeks. Following Charles's death, Margaret assisted in the care of his daughter, Lady Arabella Stuart, but her own life did not extend much beyond his. A few days before her death at the age of 52, in March 1578, she dined with Elizabeth's favourite, Robert Dudley, Earl of Leicester, sparking rumours of poisoning, though no evidence supports this claim. Despite her substantial debts at the time of her death, Margaret received an elaborate funeral at Westminster Abbey, which was funded by her cousin, Queen Elizabeth I. She was laid to rest alongside her son Charles in the south aisle of Henry VII's chapel within the abbey. The effigy on her tomb depicts Margaret adorned in a French cap and ruff, draped in a red fur-lined cloak, over a blue and gold dress. On either side of the tomb are weepers, representing her 4 sons and 4 daughters. Hi everyone, I'm so excited to finally share something that I've been working on for months. My book, King Henry VIII and His 6 Wives. I have poured so much love into this project, working closely with my amazing illustrator to make it as vibrant and engaging as possible. It's full of fun rhymes and colourful pages that bring history to life. Because, let's face it, King Henry VIII and his 6 wives had some seriously dramatic stories. You'll meet 3 Catherines, 2 Annes and 1 Jane, and you'll finally nail that classic rhyme, divorced, beheaded, died, divorced, beheaded, survived. Whether you're a kid or a history buff just like me, or just someone who loves a good story, I think you'll love this book. It's been such a joy to create, and I can't wait for you to read it yourself. You can grab your copy now on Amazon, just click the link below, and if you do, let me know in the comment section below. I'd love to know what you think. Thanks for all your support, and happy reading! Arabella, or Arabella Stuart, was born in 1575, the only child of Charles Stuart, Earl of Lennox, and Elizabeth Cavendish, the daughter of Sir William Cavendish, and the formidable Elizabeth Talbot, Countess of Shrewsbury, also known as Bess of Hardwicke. Like her cousin, King James I and VI, she traced her lineage back to Matthew Stuart, Earl of Lennox, and Lady Margaret Douglas, who, in turn, was the daughter of Archibald Douglas, Earl of Angus, and Margaret Tudor. Thus, Arabella was a great-great-granddaughter of King Henry VII and Elizabeth of York. Arabella was baptised in the village church of Edensor, situated on her grandmother's Chatsworth estate. Unfortunately, her father, Charles Stuart, passed away in 1576 when she was just an infant. Growing up, Arabella was cared for by her mother, Elizabeth Cavendish, who, due to financial constraints, resided with her mother, Bess of Hardwicke. Her parents' marriage was arranged by Arabella's grandmothers, Bess and Margaret Douglas. Since Elizabeth I's consent was neither sought nor obtained, the marriage was considered potentially treasonous. This led to the imprisonment of the Countess of Lennox and Arabella's mother in the Tower of London, and Bess faced an official inquiry, to which she cleverly turned a blind eye. Aware that any children from this marriage would have a strong claim to the English throne, Bess had strategically laid out ambitious plans, making Arabella Stuart a pawn in her grandmother's schemes even before her birth. Bess aimed to undermine the reputation of Arabella's aunt, Mary Queen of Scots, who was in captivity in England, in order to bolster Arabella's chances for the throne. Queen Mary, separated from her son James during his infancy, formed a strong bond with Arabella during their time together. However, when Mary learned of Bess's intentions for Arabella to inherit the throne, their relationship soured, and bitterness between the 2 women arose. In 1578, her paternal grandmother, Lady Margaret Douglas, passed away, leaving Arabella a casket of jewels. However, the Crown seized the Countess's English estates. Following her mother's death in 1572, 7-year-old Arabella became the ward of her grandmother, Bess of Hardwicke. Residing in the protective seclusion of Hardwicke Hall in Derbyshire, Arabella lived with her grandmother, who had married George Talbot, Earl of Shrewsbury, as her 4th husband in 1568. Arabella emerged as a potential successor to her first cousin twice removed, Queen Elizabeth I. The Queen herself hinted at Arabella as a potential heir, and Bess raised Arabella with the belief that she was destined to be the next Queen of England. Bess's servants treated Arabella as royalty, addressing her as Your Highness.
Allegedly.
Allegedly. I'm not actually too sure how true that last bit is. Bess, driven by ambition, orchestrated the engagement of Arabella to Robert Lord Denbigh, the 2-year-old son of the Earl of Leicester and Lettice Knowles. Despite the Queen's anger over this clandestine arrangement, Lord Denbigh passed away the following year, rendering the plan futile. In the summer of 1587, Arabella resided in London at Shrewsbury House with Mary Talbot. At the age of 12, she was invited to court, where she dined with the Queen, and returned in 1588. Initially, Bess of Hardwicke was kind to her granddaughter, but their relationship soured as Arabella felt increasingly confined, likening her situation to imprisonment. Between late 1592 and early 1593, the influential Cecils, including Elizabeth's Lord Treasurer Lord Burleigh and his son, Secretary of State Sir Robert Cecil, shifted their focus to Arabella's cousin, James VI of Scotland, as a preferable successor. Arabella continued her education, mastering various languages and musical instruments. In 1588, James VI suggested a union with Ludovic Stuart, 2nd Duke of Lennox, but this proposal bore no fruit. In the closing months of Elizabeth's reign, Arabella incurred the Queen's displeasure through reports that she intended to marry Edward Seymour, a member of the prominent Seymour family. This was reported to the Queen by the supposed groom's grandfather, Edward Seymour, 1st Earl of Hertford. Arabella, however, interviewed about her plans in the Long Gallery of Hardwicke Hall, Derbyshire, in 1603, denied having any intention of marrying without the Queen's permission. Bess asked the Queen for her granddaughter to be placed elsewhere, to learn to be more considerate or to bestow her in marriage. The Queen, however, wished her to remain at Hardwicke, where her actions could be watched. Bess retorted that she could not guarantee Arabella's behaviour. The situation between the two women became so fraught that Arabella refused to eat until she was removed from Hardwicke. On the 24th of March 1603, Queen Elizabeth I died, and her throne was claimed by Arabella's cousin, King James. Upon James's ascension to the English throne, Arabella experienced initial kindness from her cousin. Invited to court, she felt genuine affection from James's family for the first time. Developing a strong friendship with the new Queen, Anne of Denmark, Arabella also grew fond of James and Anne's young son, Prince Henry. A plot, known as the Main Plot, hatched by Arabella's cousin Lord Cobham and Sir Walter Raleigh, aimed to overthrow James and install Arabella as Queen. When asked to participate by supporting Philip III of Spain in writing, Arabella promptly reported it to the authorities. Due to her position in the line of succession, James delayed arranging Arabella's marriage. At the age of 35, she was 4th in line to the throne. In 1610, Arabella planned to marry William Seymour, then Lord Beauchamp, who later became the 2nd Duke of Somerset. This decision led Bess to cut Arabella from her will. Seymour, with his own claim to the throne as Lady Catherine Grey's grandson, faced scrutiny. Initially denying any arrangement, they were summoned before the Privy Council, where Seymour pledged not to marry Arabella without the King's consent. Bess passed away at the age of 80 at Hardwicke Hall in 1608. William Seymour and Arabella wed in secret on the 22nd of June 1610 at Greenwich Palace. The marriage was a secret, as they did it without the King's approval. King James perceived their union as a threat, as it strengthened their claims to his throne, and consequently imprisoned Arabella at Sir Thomas Perry's residence in Lambeth and confined Seymour in the Tower of London. While in confinement, the couple enjoyed some freedom, and surviving from that period are Arabella's letters to her husband and the King. Upon discovering her correspondence with Seymour, King James directed Arabella's transfer to the custody of William James, the Bishop of Durham. Claiming illness, Arabella postponed her journey to Durham, allowing the couple to strategize and escape. Disguised as a man, Arabella fled to Lee in Kent, but Seymour missed her before their ship set sailed for France. Although Seymour escaped the Tower upon reaching Lee, Arabella had already departed. He pursued her to Flanders on the next ship, but King James' men intercepted Arabella's vessel just before it reached Calais in France. Subsequently, she was brought back to England and confined in the Queen's house within the Tower of London. Falling ill in the Tower in 1614, suspicions arose that she might be feigning sickness for escape or sympathy. Despite refusing both food and medical care, some believed she became delusional, anticipating William's rescue. Sadly, she never reunited with her husband and died in the Tower on the 25th of September 1615, succumbing to illnesses that were heightened by her refusal to eat. A post-mortem was conducted to dismiss poisoning suspicions, revealing a slow death due to starvation. On the 29th of September 1615, Arabella found her final resting place in Westminster Abbey. In the 19th century, while searching for King James I's tomb, her lead coffin was discovered in the vault of Mary, Queen of Scots, positioned directly above the Scots Queen's final resting place. Thank you for listening to part 2 of this series. Join me next time as I will explore the princesses who descend from Mary, Queen of Scots, who herself is the granddaughter of Margaret Tudor. If you enjoyed this video, then make sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and make sure that notification bell is turned on so you never miss a video. And if you really enjoyed this video, then why not leave a super thanks? But anyway guys, until the next one, have a wonderful day. Bye!